Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of Boxing Bananas brought to you by Fight Bananas, where we are crazy about fights. I am your host, Ray the Business. I'm joined, of course, by my co-host, the professor, Mr. John Bradford. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Good, man. It's always good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, welcome back. My man's coming
Yeah,
back from
man.
a eventful weekend, to say the least.
Just a little bit. It's an eventful week, but yeah, definitely an eventful weekend. Oh my goodness, it was awesome.
Yeah,
Just
man.
just amazing.
Tell me about it a little bit. Tell everyone about it before we dive into everything.
All right, so Five Bananas has been doing this for a little while. So the first thing I gotta say thank you to is our El Presidente David Van Auken for the wonderful trip, and Mr. Dean Toole himself. Thank both those gentlemen for this unbelievable trip that they were graceful to put me on. So we got to go to the Canelo Berlanga fight on Mexican Independence Day. We stayed in a ridiculous suite. We had, just the most unbelievable fight week covering all of that. And then, of course, we're in Vegas and they have a Nochi at the same time. So the amount of people in that area was just
Nuts.
oh my God, nuts. Absolutely. Especially by the end of the week, because we got there on Tuesday. But I've never been to a major boxing event like that, to where it's like, pay-per-view as the biggest name in boxing, the face of boxing is headlining it. So to watch Canelo, watch a legend like that in person, it was just phenomenal. But to see how PBC and everything that puts on, the event throughout the week, the grand arrivals were amazing. Then you had the final press conference, and you had the open workouts right behind it. Then you had the final press conference for the prelim card, and then you go right into weigh-ins, which weigh-ins was nuts, man. I mean, to watch the people just flood from the gate, run to the stage to see them get to, where Canelo's going to be.
I saw some
And
videos of that. Yeah.
oh, just amazing. And then just to be around the energy and some of the trash talk and things like that, you feel it so much more. It's hard to explain. Like, you feel the energy in all the different fights. They on such a big card, they're gonna bring it. And man, every fight brought it. I thought there was, the only one I could say was kind of meh, but we already talked about it. The style matchup was a little bit tough for the co-main, between Lara and Danny Garcia moving up. That was the only one where you're kind of that. And that was the only one you ever heard boos in the crowd, because they wanted to see, a scrap. Now, reverse that, the whole entire crowd, I'm not going to lie, seemed like it was a Mexican crowd for sure, bringing in, the energy from Canelo 100%. But they love Caleb Plant. Did they love that man? They loved that man. That man was putting on a show for him, everything like that. But it was just an unbelievable week, something I'll never forget, something I can go, I can feel like part of my fight career, however you want to call it, media coverage, all that, like boxing, I got to fill a huge box. Yeah, I can check a box, you know what I mean? I've never been to Vegas before, so for it to be my thought of Vegas was always like, I need to go to a fight there, because it's the fight capital of the world. I need to go to a fight there. So the first time I go to a Vegas, I want it to be for a fight. And it was Canelo on Mexican Independence Day. How epic is that? I mean, that's just amazing. So
it's sick.
Thank you, Dave Van Auken. Thank you, Dean Toole. It was an amazing event, and we can dive into all the details and everything like that. But it was just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. I mean, we got to stay on the same floor as Sugar Shane O'Malley, and Jake Paul was up there too. What the hell am I doing? Like, that was amazing. It was just crazy. So
yeah, man, that's sick. And that was a little bit better than because I thought the same thing, right? So when I went to Vegas the first time, I was at like a what's it called, like a conference, right?
Yeah.
And I went, and it just so happened they were doing a Top Rank on a Thursday, and I went, but it was for the Teofimo versus Jermaine Ortiz fight, and that was a stinker, bro. Yeah, there was like people walking out and everything, so that wasn't the best one. Then you had what's his face, Keyshawn Davis versus Pedraza on there, and Davis definitely showed out. So that made the event. I'll say it saved the night for sure. So it made something memorable. But yeah, man, over the weekend, bro, we had a great card for boxing. Something that we talked about before, how not too like all too often we see these boxing pay-per-views are super top heavy, and then the other fights you don't really care about. Which for this one, I felt it had a lot of name recognition in there. Um, you had Rolly Romero in there coming back. You had Plant on there for sure. Lara Garcia, and obviously Canelo at the top against Berlanga. I think, man. Let me just ask you this. We'll kind of bounce around the card. You made a prediction beforehand, or you said there was a certain fight that was going to steal the show. Now, looking back in hindsight, what fight did you think stole the show of the night?
Oh, fight of the night was Caleb Plant McCrumbie. I'm a big Caleb Plant fan. I have no qualms about saying that that's one of my favorite fighters. It was another reason why I'm super excited to watch this card. I wanted to see him fight. It was just, I mean, I love technical, smooth boxing, and he's smooth and technical to me. I mean, Canelo's a master, like an absolute chess master, like the highest level of it. And the way he dissects things, it's unreal. And what he learns from his opponents, and we'll get into that later, is just phenomenal. But Caleb Plant and them stole the show. Caleb I thought had a little bit of rough patch, even though he said, like, he was quoted saying he did 359 rounds of sparring throughout the time he's been off. Mm-hmm. But I think he just felt a little ring rust. And McCrumbie is actually a 175er. Most of his fights came at a bigger weight. He took the 168er because it was such an opportunity, right? In that sense. He might have fought some 168s here or there, but he was mainly fighting more at 175. And you saw it, man was huge. Man was not that big.
Yeah, and he was powerful too, bro.
He was big. He hit hard. It was legit. And it was one of those things where I didn't necessarily give him the respect he deserves. He earned my respect that fight, right?
Oh, for sure. 100%.
He earned my respect that fight. He is more athletic than the white guy I thought he was. He's more powerful than that. He's a good, solid boxer. He has some swag to him. He just came across an extremely determined, pissed off Caleb Plant. And it's like he poked the bear one too many times, and there was no, like, it wasn't happening. He wasn't going to give up that win in any kind of way. You weren't getting it from him. He proved right there. Caleb Plant can't fight on the inside. Well, change that idea. Once he found his swag and he was like playing to the crowd, it was like an old WWE fight with Hulk Hogan trying to, like, give me the power, and they were suddenly stomping on the ropes trying to get the people ready. You know what I mean? Because every time they did it, he got pumped, and then his swag came back, and he started doing the Caleb stuff. They little boyed him for a second, started making him miss. And once he found that and realized, oh damn, this dude is going to start slowing down if I put the pressure on him. McCrumbie's words kind of faltered on him. So when I was in there, I was on it was fight week. It was after open workouts, and open workouts for boxing are not the same like they are for I don't want to say it for MMA, right? MMA, they actually hit pads. They do a little thing. They're out there for about 15 minutes, 20 minutes doing some stuff. Bro, they shadow box and they try to get out that ring so quick so they can answer some questions and get on. And I completely understand that. I know it's just that, and it's a completely different concept when it comes to that. Yeah. So when McCrumbie was out of the ring, I said, I was like, McCrumbie, you're quoted calling Caleb a quitter. If that's so, what rounds are you going to break him in? Or what round are you feel? He goes 8 or 9. It's like, okay, all right, cool. I think that's a legit thought. That makes sense probably in your game plan. And then all of a sudden, when Caleb comes out the next time I asked him, I was like, Caleb, and I was like, hey, Caleb, we just quoted McCrumbie saying that you're a quitter, and I asked him what rounds he's going to finish, break you in. He said 8 and 9. I go, how's that sound to you? He goes, sounds good. Sounds good. I was like, oh, sounds good. He's like, yeah, I know the sound bite. Sounds good. And he just, gave me a little wink and a smile. And I was like, okay. So let's see if that, wore well in the history. It didn't, because what round did McCrumbie get finished in? And when did he start to break? Between 6 and 9. So that little segment of where McCrumbie thought was happening, totally got flipped on his head.
And I feel like, to be fair for McCrumbie, had Caleb not flipped the script on him, that fight was going in that direction.
It was.
But Caleb definitely said, you said it might have been some ring rust. I definitely think that might have played a factor into it. I think it might have been a two-part factor into those beginning rounds. One, Caleb might have been a little bit rusty. He had to get his legs underneath him because it didn't look like he had his legs.
No.
And then on the other hand, Macombi came in hot, bro. He
Oh,
came on strong. He came in quick. He came in powerful. So
yeah.
for him to come in there as hot as he did, and Caleb just getting kind of caught off guard, I think
Yeah, I think it was a
I think
surprise. I
definitely
think it was a
contributed.
super surprise of how athletic McCrumbie was. I don't think we thought any of us thought McCrumbie was that athletic.
Super athletic for
And
sure.
he
And I
was.
think my boy here, Yu Mang, has a good
Umang,
point. Those
Umang,
two L's, Umang,
Umang, Umang Rama.
Umang. Hey, Umang. Shout out to you, brother. Those two L's from Canelo and Benavidez taught Caleb a lot. He showed it. Yeah, for sure. And that's what I was saying before in the pre-fight is he's bringing that experience in with him as well. There's a lot of
Yeah.
experience you can gain in a 12-round fight with Benavidez and those 11 rounds with Canelo as well. So I think we saw that. But yeah, continue.
No, yeah, I think you're exactly right. Everything you're saying plays right into it. And then I think in round 5, Caleb was like, okay, at the end of it, he started getting into the inside. And I think he felt a little bit of the, I don't want to say it, the slowdown or the explosiveness of his, just the fact when you have bigger muscles, you're a little bit bigger guy, you got to use a lot of oxygen, you got to use a lot of power to get in that, and that drains you, man. And when Caleb realized I need to cut the distance and I need to, be inside, it changed the entire game plan. And I don't know if people saw this when they were watching it. I don't know. I know we talked about it a little bit, but he did a hell of a job learning from playing on the inside and how he was doing it. If everybody knows, when Caleb got on the inside, he didn't do this. It wasn't like Berlanga and Canelo where they were, glove to glove. Caleb was squeezing those gloves in and making body shots, throwing uppercuts, and it's just the timing of everything was just thrown off. And McCrumbie was sitting on that left hook, and he was just rolling under it nice and clean, nice and easy, and just boom, boom, you know what I mean? And finding that timing in there, and it was a pretty inside game, and you could tell like our boy over here, Umang Rama said, he learned from Benitez and Canelo on the inside, and he learned some tricks from his new coach too, because I don't remember seeing him do any of that on the inside before. And being able to squeeze those gloves together it blew my mind in a minute. I was like, oh wow, there's so many levels.
We were
to this.
talking about it
and
a bit.
I just learned to know.
What's it called? When you're touching the gloves like that, you can almost just like close your eyes and
Yeah, because you can see which hand is.
Feel
You know
when
which hand is
when the person's gonna throw the hand, like you're controlling the hands. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like like how they do in like jujitsu. You know what I mean? You can control the wrists. You could even close your eyes and kind of understand like where somebody is just based off of the feeling. And that was something similar. And like you had mentioned, once he let go of it, then he's able to open back. Once he had it like this, it brings in the elbows. You can attack the body, which he was ripping the body, and it definitely slowed McCumbie down, which he had to do. That guy had way too much power and way too much athleticism to not attack that body. And then, as Teddy Atlas says, put the water in the basement and then start to drown him. But like you said too, and then once you let go of it, it comes back up, and he was ripping those uppercuts up the middle. Dude, the boxing that we saw from Caleb and just the experience as well. A lot of people, I feel like once you have those, we saw something similar with Deontay Wilder when in his first loss, where he didn't have his legs under him and he wasn't able to come back from it. It was like he was shocked. Mm-hmm. Caleb just kind of brushed it off. It was like, all right, whatever. I'm still in here, and flipped the script, turned the tide, and took it to McCumbie and got the stoppage. And
1 second left.
I thought that was a good stoppage too, man. Especially like once your hand goes into the ropes and you're getting beat up like that.
He sat on the ropes afterwards. You saw when he got hit, when the ref stepped in, he just sat down. He knew what was happening. Yeah. He knew, and he didn't complain about it. He never once said that was a bad stoppage. He didn't complain. He didn't try to say
about it either. So
yeah, he sat down on the ropes, and you kind of realize he's like, fuck. He was getting ready to get put out. And that's what it was.
No, for sure. He was getting up big time.
Yeah, and it was nasty. Those were some bombs landing on his head. And, it wasn't like he wasn't getting uppercutted and bodied and just tired out. He was taking a lot of damage, right there. It was a good stop. And he didn't complain. And you know that. When a fighter doesn't even, think about the stoppage in any kind of way, don't argue it. It was right. He didn't say nothing. He was just like.
Yeah, he got saved. You could tell he was bummed. But This is another example of what I've been saying and I've been preaching throughout the entirety of when we're doing this show is that I love how boxing is going into a direction where we don't care anymore about these losses, right? It was too often where, oh, I got my O. You saw it ruined fighters like Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner was so, oh, I got my O, I got my O. And then once he lost his O, he was never the same fighter. Now, you could
Yeah.
attribute that to him getting absolutely destroyed and beat up by Marcos Maidana. But also after that, I don't know that we ever really saw the same Adrian Broner after that fight. He never really took it as serious. It was almost mentally because there's one thing of when you put your identity into, okay, I'm a pro boxer, I'm this guy. And then in boxing, you put your identity into, I'm this undefeated guy. There's probably some sort of identity crisis going on, some sort of mental
Oh,
thing that's
yeah.
happening. I'm not a psychiatrist or nothing, but that's what I would assume, right? You get guys like Plant. Plant is a guy who, he's lost to the two best guys in the division, but everyone was excited to see Plant come back. They like
Not
his
just
fighting
division.
style, they like his story.
Two of the best fighters in the world, not the division. Two of the best fighters in the world he lost to, not just the division. So it's not like you're fighting in some
Wong's
division
got
that's
a
not
good
good.
point here too. There's a lot of pressure in keeping that O.
It is.
And then once you lose it, I feel like it's like, who cares? Just time to fight. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're seeing like Anthony Joshua now, he had lost his O, but then I feel like they were making excuses about it almost like and they got the win back, which you can't even really compare the wins with Ruiz. And then he still kind of was in that same mindset. But after losing to, what's his face, Usyk twice and almost having basically a mental breakdown, I feel like we have a much better version of Anthony Joshua. There's a few examples I could cite, but I feel like Plant is an example of it doesn't matter if this fighter has two losses, whatever. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? Though it was a good fight with Canelo, it was a good fight with Benavidez. He had a good fight with Durrell. This was a great fight as well, bro. Plant stock is going up every single time. It went up with Canelo. It went up with Durrell. It went up with Benavidez, even with a loss, and now it's even higher. Every single fight, his stock is going up. And McCumbee, like you said, bro, his stock went up as well, even in a loss, even in a stoppage loss. Nobody knew who this guy was. He went out there and
Mm-hmm.
fought, and people are going to remember him, and people are going to want to see the next time this guy fights. Next time this guy gets booked for a fight, they're going to
I
go,
do.
I
I do.
remember that guy.
Yeah,
Facts.
I do. I want to watch him.
So that right there, a lot of credit. Caleb Plant, I don't know where he's going from here. I feel like maybe a fight with Berlanga is pretty good. We'll get into the Berlanga thing. Maybe they want to take a tune-up fight first and then lead into a big fight like Plant. So maybe Plant
They
has
don't
to
even
just
want
fight.
Plant.
I think that's the biggest other
Like,
fight you get besides. But we'll
I think
we'll
so.
we'll touch up on that. You know what I mean? In
I think so
a
too. But
minute.
I think another one Plant could go though. For as far as we're just talking about Plant right now for a second, I think Plant should look for that Charlo fight. I think that's another big fight that's good for him. I think that's a good
I
one.
don't know what Charlo's doing though, bro. What's Charlo up
No, I
to?
get it, but that's not a bad one either. That's not a bad one either.
Charlo's like missing in action, bro. He had that fight
Mm-hmm.
a year ago. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening with my
They
man? He
might
had
be
a
on the way
comeback
out.
fight. Yeah, so I don't know, man. That guy is a little too unreliable in boxing at the moment.
Yep.
Before we get to Canelo, let's talk about Lara and Garcia.
Okay. You
Something with
stated
this,
this from the beginning. You stated this from the beginning. You watched it. It kind of went down exactly how you started to you talked about it. It's not a good style matchup for Danny. It's a big weight jump. What did you take from it?
it's hard to catch Lara when you got six toes, man.
Yeah.
And for anybody that hasn't seen, just Google Danny Garcia six toes. He's got six toes. He has two pinky toes. Not even joking.
I
But
really
yeah,
thought
man,
you were. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
dude, I swear. But yeah, bro, with Danny Garcia, for him and his team to call out Lara, it was one of those fights where I was like, okay, it was on nobody's radar, but all right, let's see it, right? But man, I feel like it was an unnecessary fight. And then on top of that, like I don't know. He didn't have to do this to himself. You know what I mean? Hold on 1 second. Give me 1
Yeah,
second.
no, it's
Embarrassed. Tell people I had 6 toes. I still do have 6 toes.
You have 6 toes.
Yeah, I got 6 toes in my right foot.
Do you think that gives you a competitive advantage?
No doubt. That's why I never been.
But I don't think you're gonna do it.
Wait for it.
stop it. Am I about to watch 6 toes for real? No. Oh, count them. 1, 2, 3.
And you're saying
4,
that is a
5,
competitive
6.
advantage, right?
Yes, sir. That's why I'm never off balance and I've never been down.
He said he's never been down. Well, he was down in this fight. I mean, what's the last? What the one went wee all the way home. What about the next one? What is it? He has an extra. So, my boy's saying 11 toes down, bro. Anyways, back to my assessment. Right, I don't know why they took this fight. Why they called for this fight? They asked for this. Danny's a guy who pretty much has to be set in order to throw punches, and Lara's a guy who doesn't let you get set.
Mm-hmm.
That right there, black and white, I felt like, why did his team want this fight? They could have called out anybody else. They wanted Lara. That's what they got. And I'm cool with the stoppage as well because it was something where they weren't making progress.
They waved it off. So
he was making no progress. He was only going to get hurt. And it was declining from there. My other issue, too, with Danny, and it's not really an issue, but I wonder why he doesn't shift. You ever notice he throws like that big rear hook, and then he brings it all the way here, and then almost half steps into it, but then brings it back. Like he has to rewind it back every time. Why doesn't, like, if you're going to commit that much to the punch, why don't you just shift into it and then, go into a southpaw? Yeah, you know what I mean? Like some of these other guys do. It's almost like he puts himself in an uncomfortable position and then rewinds it all the way back, which is it's a very big rewind. You know what I mean? It's not like today we got DVDs. Back in the day, you had to have the VHS. You had to put it in the little machine that did it quicker. I felt like that's his style to me. I don't know if I'm thinking too much into it, or if you're picking up what I'm saying.
No, I get exactly. I think it might be one of those things. He's always so grounded for his punches. He just doesn't want to move his feet that way. I think that's more realistic than
he has an extra toe in the way. He can't get his foot to slide.
The 6 toe is fucking him up. He can't drag it the right way.
It's got to be what it is.
But I do think it's the bad style matchup. He said it. He dared to be great. I think he just wanted one more world title fight. Why wouldn't Lara take that name? A man coming from 147 his whole career, fought 154 once, and then steps up to 160. And Lara, you fought the best in the world at your weight. Why wouldn't you want to take that? You know what I mean? I feel like that was just smart.
I feel like it's the best fight for Lara, too, because in that division right now, you got Janibek, Carlos Adames, which I don't feel like, honestly, are really big fights. And I don't feel like the Janibek fight gets made with Top Rank. If you're picking a big fight, Garcia is a much bigger fight than any of those names. 160 right now is kind of it's like 147 right now, where nobody's really talking about it. There's not a lot of hype behind it.
Yeah.
154 has got the action going down. 168 and 35, 40, whatever. But those divisions are kind of at the moment. But yeah, man, I don't know what we see from Danny. Do we see another 2-year layoff before he gets back in there? Do we see him? I would like to see him fight again. I think with the appropriate style matchup, it makes for a good fight, and he can get his. I don't know, bro. I don't think you go out like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think you go out like that, but I think it might be the time to go out. So
yeah, but I just don't think you go out like that. Even if you take another tune-up fight like he did against that one guy, the Marine, whatever his name was, that he hit with the same combination 3 times and knocked out in the second round. That I think you take a fight like that. You know what I mean? Or just a fight against anybody. But at least put on a good fight. If you're going to lose, put on a good fight.
Yeah, it can't be 160 though. It's got to be. He's got to be at 154 or 147. That 160 is
It's
too
gotta be
much.
154, bro.
I know
I think
he's
it
a
has to
bigger.
be 154.
Yeah, I know he's a bigger guy, but it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't. Or at least if you're gonna fight at 160, do it against somebody who's gonna actually complement your style.
Yes, someone that's gonna
Lara's the
stand
kind
in
of
front of
guy.
you and let you get set to throw those punches. You know what I mean? If
Yeah,
not, it's just like you said. You called it from the beginning. It's a bad stylistic matchup. It doesn't work well for for him as that type of fighter. And that's what I think we don't always remember all the time is that styles make matchups, and we think about just guys like one are going to be utter dominate, or one it's going to be a great fight. It's not going to be utter utter domination. Like, to be real, I thought the Danny Garcia Lara fight. I understood your take on it, but I was like, man, no, Danny Garcia, he's such a talented fighter. It's going to be a good fight. Whereas I'm over here going, Plant's going to run through McCrumbie and
yeah,
flip both of those. Fucking great fight over here with McCumbie and Plant, but then fucking nothing out of the one I thought that might be there. I mean, I knew the Plant fight would be great, but I didn't think. I thought it would be great for the like full way through by Plant, like kind of a railroad type of thing. Whereas this one was not a railroad. It was a tough fight for the whole thing, and then Lara was a straight railroad to Danny, like you kind of predicted. It was a one-sided, one-way matchup, and I also think getting hit by a real 160 guy is just a little bit different. It's a little bit different than getting hit by a 147 dude.
no, for sure. And I don't know if my microphone was picking up the audio through here, but I just realized, like, I've had my headphones on, and when my headphones just kind of fell off when I itched my ear, I realized this whole time I haven't had them plugged in. So
Ah! Ah!
there we go. That's
That's
how
funny.
technical savvy your boy is
That's
over
funny.
here.
I'm not even any better, so it's all right. I'm not any better.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, man, I'd like to see Danny, come back. I don't think this loss does like anything too crazy to him.
Mm.
It's one of those things at this point, 3 losses, 4 losses, whatever. Nobody cares. You know what I mean? And for Lara isn't this isn't the first time that he's heard boos coming from the crowd. His style is going to be his style, and
Yeah.
then he's going to get him out of there. So on paper, this is his 4th consecutive stoppage victory.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's
So
just when you have a Mexican crowd and then you have a Cuban footworker who likes to jab and move in range and land on it, then the Mexican guy gets into fights and bangs, and then you just saw the Caleb fight that was right before it where they went in there and they gave it their all. They went dirty. They did everything. It was a great fight. And then you go see the co-main event and it's that, and it's like, damn it. But again, styles make matchups. Lara's a great fighter, phenomenal. The oldest world champion that we have right now at 41 years old.
mm-hmm.
So I mean, and he wants another crack at Canelo. He said, I don't think that's happening, but he wants another crack at him.
Canelo could take that fight.
I mean, he may, but
who knows? Yeah, a lot of people were saying back in the day that he thought that everyone thought Lara beat him. And Lara, his footwork is good, but it's not the same as what it was.
Yeah.
So and Canelo, to be fair, Canelo fought him in a style that's more similar to his now super middleweight style. I felt like at 154 he threw a lot more combinations. At 160 he threw a lot more combinations. Now he just kind of walks you forward, kind of baits you, throws 1 or 2 big shots. When he fought Lara, that's essentially how he had to fight him. He had to cut off the ring. He won that fight with body shots, I thought. I thought the fight was close, but I thought Canelo edged it out because Lara went from punching and moving, aka boxing, to just moving.
Yeah.
And the punching started going down. But regardless,
kind of the same way Plant was. I mean, Plant was doing really well in the first, 5-6 rounds with Canelo, and then it just got hunted. You know what I mean? Like, this man pressures you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So, but that being said, man, let's get into Canelo. My man Canelo, he did it again. I have a few thoughts about this, but before I go into everything, what were your thoughts on the fight? What were your thoughts on both the gentlemen's performances?
Well, I'm going to give, anytime somebody does something, you want to give them their due. And I got to give Berlanga his due for the fact that he talked shit. He tried to, he tried to put his best foot forward, best fight, and everything like that. And he did. He was tough. He took hits. He took the knockdown. You saw it was a flash. He pounded his gloves, so he wasn't hurt that bad. Canelo came to press on him, and it wasn't exactly as pressure as you thought. He didn't unload. Like, I think if he unloaded a few more punches at the end of, during that round, maybe he could have hurt him again or anything like that. But instead, it was like a chess masterclass of, hey, there's nothing you can do. I can literally put my pieces wherever I want, and you're going to get hit. It's just what it is. It's like, you could call it chess. You could call it battleship. You can't find the only thing you're landing is a jab. You can't find anything else on me. You know what I mean? And keep him away. But I'll give Berlanga his due. His stock went nothing but up. 12 rounds with Canelo, knocked down one time. His stock went up. I think he also, let's talk about this for a second. That man was 200 pounds in the ring that night.
Yeah, he was like 193 when he weighed in, I think, but I think they weigh him in the morning.
Yeah.
Right,
so
when they re-weigh in.
yeah.
So you still have the rest of the day to eat, to hydrate up. He was at least over 195.
Oh, easily. He was close to 200, if not more. And then he said the next day he was already up to 205. Like,
yeah,
that lets you know how close he was to 200.
After having a 12-round sweat.
Yeah. In like, if nobody understands how hot it is in a ring in boxing, it is extremely hot with those lights on. It's freezing in the rest of the arena, but in the middle of that ring, it is hot as hell, right? So, like you said, after a 12-round fight, sweating his ass off, he was still up to 205 the next day. Like that next morning or whatever like that, or even that night.
The fight you would think is almost like a weight cut in itself.
Yeah, exactly. But I think Canelo, then, giving Berlanga his due, he's tough, he's awesome. His stock went up. He actually showed a better boxing IQ than I thought he would. He just can't keep you. What Triple G did and what Bivol did was they were able to keep Canelo kind of in where they wanted to with their jab. And once that jab can't keep him out anymore, or you can't keep that jab up for the entire 12 rounds, that's kind of like your stick out there, and all of a sudden he's just breaking the stick down, like, knocking that dungeon door down with the battering ram, and it's like it's not working anymore. And he's just coming forward, and it's just like, shit, I can't keep it out there anymore. And then Canelo, being the master at, of this art that he is, you saw the setup for the hook, the dip. As soon as Berlanga started doing this, hook comes over the top. And then you see Canelo, after he lands that one, he's like, okay, now your hand's glued here. Where am I going to throw that hook? He went to the Triple G hook and started coming over the top. And then what did that open up? High guard, went straight to the hook to the body like Triple G throws. The long around the corner, bang, with the knuckles coming this way rather than this way. I mean, he learned so well. Hook. Yeah, exactly. He learned so well from his opponents, and he takes those things that are good and what he can use for his game and puts it in his game flawlessly. I mean, it's beautiful to watch, man. It's a masterclass in understanding the different levels and setups of the game. And from the whole get-go, like, he could feint, and you saw the jumpiness. I mean, don't get me wrong. If Canelo feinted at me, I'm jumping too. Like, holy shit. You know what I mean? Because it's Canelo. But at the same time, you got to be able to stand there and not give away so much motion. And it never really seemed to settle. The only thing that was really working well was the jab for Berlanga. Even though Berlanga had a tough fight, tough kid. I'll watch him again now. He definitely earned more of my respect that way. I definitely thought he was overrated for a little bit. His stock went up, man. He's going to be a solid 168er. I think if he takes this the right way, goes in and watches it and realizes the mistakes and the things he could have done, take it, learn from it, and then put it into your game the right way. But Canelo is just, he's a master in the ring. He's just a master in the ring. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah, man. I think we talked about before how in the preview show, how, real quick, Umang, he's a dog for sure. That's an L I'd be happy with. Haha. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's not the worst L in the world, especially for where he was at.
Yeah.
But, man, we were talking about in the preview show how Berlanga isn't just going to magically come up with that game plan and the IQ in order to beat Canelo.
Mhm.
But what he did do was he was able to, while he was in there, bring it to a level where it was at least somewhat competitive,
Mhm.
right? Because it wasn't like Canelo just completely waxed him like I thought, he was going to do. Berlanga still had success with the jab. He was pumping the jab. He was landing it, to my surprise. He landed a few right hands in there off of it. He landed decent shots, and he didn't. I thought the best thing that he did is he went in there without respecting Canelo like everyone else does. And that was the one thing. You know how everyone's like, "Oh, I'm going to do this before the fight." And they don't do it. And of course, everyone will be like, "Oh, I'm going to knock him out in this amount of time, that amount of time," and they don't do it. The
Mhm.
one thing Berlanga did do that he said he was going to do was he said, "Oh, I'm not going to be that guy that comes in here that's, oh, I'm so happy to I'm so happy to share the ring with you, blah blah blah." And you saw that in the fight. He didn't necessarily give him the respect. I thought that might have attributed to him getting knocked down. I know it was set up by Canelo because he was pumping the jab up the middle. He got him to, try to over parry it, looped it around because he didn't just throw the hook from here. He kind of does like a loopy hook,
Yeah.
right? Where it gets you to kind of drop it. You look like it's going to come from here, but then it comes around. So there was a few things in there. But before I get into the rest of my breakdown, I want to bring in the Rizzler.
What's up, my guy?
What up? What up?
What's up, brother? How you doing?
I'm good. I'm feeling like death, but it is what it is.
What the club? What's up? What's up? The club's going up on a Tuesday.
Hey, gotta get ready for work in a little bit.
Okay, I got you. Well, we're glad that you could join us. You know what? Before I'll shut up for a second. Let me hear your breakdown of the main event, brother. Get right into it. Hop right in. Come in hot.
I'm not gonna lie. I was kind of impressed with Edgar Berlanga's performance. Now, the scorecards are gonna say otherwise, just because Canelo pretty much controlled the fight, but there was literally no expectation for Edgar Berlanga, or lower than low, pretty much 6 feet under.
He says he exceeded the non-existent expectations.
Exactly, he exceeded that.
To
But
be fair,
I think what I was impressed with is that I didn't think he was going to be as sharp as he was, especially throughout 12 rounds. I thought eventually, being at that level, he was going to fade, and I thought his confidence was going to fade as the fight went on, especially after the third round when he got dropped with that hook. I thought it
was close.
I thought I was gonna be done. I was waiting for the finish from round like 4 and 5. I was like waiting. I was like, all right, the finish is coming. Ended up not coming, and that boy stayed in there for the whole fight. So I was thoroughly impressed with that. I was also impressed with the fact that like his conditioning was pretty on par. I think that he looked a lot fresher than Canelo
towards the
did.
end.
Yeah, towards the end. I don't know if you guys touched on that, but that was one thing where I was just like, man, like he put in his best like his best training camp, because it looked like even though Canelo controlled the fight, Berlanga was like still like kind of putting his best foot forward towards rounds 9, 10, and 11. And my hat's off to him. He definitely has my respect. I think he's I don't know if he's a top contender, but he definitely deserves his top 10 ranking in the Ring magazine, going 12 rounds with the best in the world. In terms of Canelo's performance, it's a standard one that I've seen the last few fights. He's pretty well. He stalks his opponents. He's been very selective with his shots. I think that in this fight, I would have hoped that he got the finish just because of the caliber we were expecting, of the caliber of opponent Berlanga was anticipating.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that this fight, it was a typical Canelo performance. I think he did solid, though he's starting to fade a lot more towards the end of the fight, which is a little bit worrisome if he's going to call out Dimitri Bivol for a rematch and stuff like that. Against top of the top guys, I think that is an issue. But I don't know what you can say, Professor.
I get what you're saying there, and I think it's a 2020 hindsight 2020 thing. I think he realized Berlanga had no more power to hurt him, and he didn't have to press the issue. I really feel like you saw like he was pressing a little bit in the first early rounds. He knocked him down. It was bound. I think around 6, he was like, "Oh, I can coast." I mean, he literally walked away early from the bell and was able to go, "Nah, I got it. Like you can't attack me like that." You know what I mean? And even catch it. So I feel like he kind of just did it on purpose. I don't feel like it was all about the energy. Like I do think Berlanga turned up a notch and was able to find a second win. Like you're saying, I definitely agree with that. But I think it was more of a conscious effort for Canelo to kind of go from, gear 6 to gear 5 and then maybe gear 4. And he realized you still can't beat me in gear 4. Like,
yeah, I get that.
Really
but I think the biggest thing is that if you continuously fight a certain way, I don't know if you're making like a drastic adjustment against a guy like Bivol or maybe, a potential Benavidez fight. I don't know if that could be successful just because you've been having a habit of fighting a selective certain way and kind of coasting like that. Listen, you're the coach, so you could probably have a little more experience with that. But just in terms of like breaking a habit, especially like in the past like 3-4 fights, the way he's been fighting, it's hard to break those things. So that's the only reason why I'm saying that is because it's very, very.
Who wants to go to the Four Seasons Orlando? Me. I have a question that I wanted to propose to you guys, and while we're on this subject, Johan, that you just brought up, I feel like it's appropriate now because it's basically what you're saying. So with Canelo, not only have basically the last 4 fights he's had pretty much not been carbon copies, but it's all right. I knocked the guy down one time and then I kind of cruised to the decision because I'm just so much better than them. Right. It's a little bit different in each fight. Ryder at least fought back, but was just outclassed. Charlo just didn't even try. Munguia, he got beat by the aura.
Yeah.
We didn't. It was almost like just him being in there. He was trying, but we didn't really see the same Munguia. We didn't see that ferocity that we normally see. In this one, like I had mentioned, Berlanga didn't really respect him, and I think that gave him the most success is that he didn't put that respect on there. But in these fights, not only those 4, but then the past 5/6, since he won the undisputed title against Caleb, he has faded noticeably in the later rounds of every single fight. Now, I have a few, or actually, let me word it like this. Why do you think that is? And this is going to be a multiple choice answer. We have A, is it because he's getting older? Is it B, the fact that he's at super middleweight / light heavyweight? Really, for his body size, you see every single person that he's fighting is nearly a foot taller than him. Huge. Is it, the whole, like when Conor McGregor put on all that extra weight and you could just help him gas out even quicker? It's a lot harder to supply oxygen to that extra weight. And, your arms are heavier, etc., right? You're just heavier. C, is it the fact that his style at super middleweight, because I brought it up how at, junior middleweight, he fought with a lot more combinations. He uses jab a lot more. He was slipping, moving, this, that, and the next. He was a lot more active fighter. Now his style is more, like he's hitting the aqua bag, that teardrop bag. Just boom, 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 boom. Like like that's his training campus. He's just drilling that all day long because that's the way he's fighting. Is explosive, explosive, explosive. And then that's why, you start to get a decline. Is it because, there's a lack of motivation there where in his run to become undisputed, he was chasing the carrot or he was chasing something? You know what I mean? He was going to the top of the hill. Now he is the guy at the top of the hill. So other than the money, there's nothing really to chase. It's just another defense. Or is it, what Marvin Hagler said, where it's hard to wake up at 5 a.m. to go run when you're waking up in satin sheets? Or is it E? Is it a combination of all or some?
E. We're going with E. because
Okay.
it's A, B, and C. It's A, B, and C.
Break that down for me, Professor. Where the class is in session.
All right. So A was what? A was the weight. A was the weight. A was his amount of weight on him, right? Like he's at 160.
Yeah.
He's at
168/175.
Yeah.
And we saw it a little more drastically at 175 as well.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. It's definitely the weight. So, and then it's his age, right? It's his age too, because he is getting older. I don't care what anybody says. He's still unbelievably great. Like I don't think there's only but a couple people that could beat him on the planet Earth that are in those categories, right? There's only like one or two people that can do it.
Well, especially at super middleweight, but continue.
Yeah, but like, and that would actually light heavyweight is the only one I'm really thinking about. I think Better Beeve or Bivol could have a good thing. Bivol already did it, so one of them could maybe do it, right? Mm-hmm. But at 168, it's tough. I don't know of anybody at 168 beside Ben Benitez, and then I think he's already got a game plan for him in the sense of making him go fight another 175, and then I'm gonna bring you down and make it hurt on you, right? We've talked about that before, guys. And then I think it's also the fact that his style is kind of it's changed so he can essentially accommodate all those things, right? So that's why it's the plethora of it. Like he's used to throwing those bombs. He can walk you down. He can do all that. And then he starts to fade because he's just throwing bombs. But if he threw the combinations in the speedy way he would do it, I think those sprints would drain him even more. He knows his legs are underneath him. He knows he has a good base. And then if all he has to do is just concentrate on making the upper body the right way, because he never chases, he never overreaches with punches. He understands his distance and where he needs to go.
He does it on purpose. Like with an extended jab or something like that.
100%, because he knows he's got the timing on it right there.
Yeah.
But he never puts himself in a bad spot. That's like that master class that I'm talking about. There's levels to shit. And he's not putting himself in a bad spot. So he's conserving energy this way. And now all he says, okay, my explosions are gonna be 2-3 punches at the most, at the very most, and then I'll put this jab on you and just keep pressure. And then eventually it breaks just like that. It's crazy how Canelo can just keep walking he just breaks you. And you have to earn his respect either by when you take a punch, one of his best punches, like when he hit Triple G with that overhand right, and Triple G goes, nah, I'm gonna be here all night. You're like, okay, it's a different game now. Can't do this. I can't unload on you like this. It's gonna be, we need to box. And then when you hit a guy like Bivol and he doesn't back up from you and he puts the pressure on you, you're kind of like, all right, hold on. Like this is a different monster I'm dealing with, right? So I think it's a combination of A, B, and C because he's starting to learn that at my age, I can do these things, I can do that thing. But the biggest thing I need to do is make sure I'm always in the right place, right time, right moment, and I'm leading the dance every which way. And if he does that, there's not a person that's going to beat him. If he can lead the dance and be the man in each dance and lead it, it's not happening. It's just not happening.
Most definitely. I agree to an extent. Johan, okay. What do you think? I agree, but I just have a little different little different take on it.
Yeah. Okay. I agree, but I'm gonna go with the obscure answer. I'm gonna go with F. I think he's just protecting his assets. I think ever since his loss to Dimitri Bivol, I mean, he is still stalking his opponents down, but he's doing a more conservative style or a style that he knows that is going to win him a fight or a blueprint that he knows is going to carry him through. I think, I don't want to get into the business of things. I also think matchups stylistically he picks the right matchups to what's it called? To not only give him pay-per-view numbers, but that are very favorable towards him. I think that with his age being going into his mid-30s, I think that he's trying to extend how long he will be the face of boxing for. Because even at, we talk about him being at super middleweight and how he's been, loading up on punches and very selective. But even in that run to undisputed, he was a lot more versatile with it. He was a lot more explosive, and he was definitely conditioning him a little. He was a lot more conditioned. But I think ever since that loss, I think he realizes that his time at the top could be numbered. So he's trying to do everything he can to minimize it, kind of like Floyd Money Mayweather. We've seen money translate transition into a more defensive style because he understood that at welterweight these guys are much bigger. He doesn't have the power to stop any of these guys, but he has the intangibles and the defense to really point them out. His Canelo's money style is really walking him down, being selective because he understands that the presence that he brings and the limelight can be the thing that falters all these opponents. But that's my big thing is I think that it's really like it's a combination of everything. But I think now we're seeing him be selective because his place at the top is numbered, and he's literally trying to do everything he can to kind of like extend that.
Yeah, most definitely. And you know what's crazy, bro, is that your opinions are so trash that John had to leave.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I'm right here.
No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, John disappeared for a second there. But no, I agree with you.
I was getting pizza to put in the oven. Look, I was getting pizza to put in the oven. I'm gonna do it right now, so y'all understand.
He's putting his pizza in the oven, bro. But no, bro, I agree with you as well, man. So I would say my take on this, right, with the whole multiple choice, is I feel like part of it, I don't know so much is that he's getting older because he's 34. I guess that is when people start to kind of decline. So maybe that is a smidge to it, but I feel like it's more. One of them has to do with a combination of the weight and the fact that his style is just so explosive. It doesn't help him. He needs an intense amount of conditioning in order to do that. So how much conditioning is he actually doing in the gym? I think that leads into the favorable matchups. Okay, well, if you look at these performances he's had lately, like I said, it's pretty much, cookie cutter, the same thing. I would like to think Canelo just knows, okay, I could go in there, not the most prepared that I've ever been, but I know that I'm gonna, like, on paper, I'm supposed to beat this guy. My experience is gonna take me to the end, and I'm gonna beat them up enough in those beginning rounds where even if I do fade towards the end, it's not really gonna help them because they'll either be gun shy, not have the energy, be a little more beat up. And then my experience is, I can see the shots coming. He's almost like in the Matrix where every single time somebody throws a shot, he's already, turning his head. He's moving. He's being able to dodge the shots and whatnot. The thing is, though, is that in these fights, Canelo's giving his opponent the opportunity to beat him every single time. The only person that's actually taken the opportunity is Bivol. He's been the one that says, no, I'm going to put it to you. I'm going to fight you. And, also not to mention, well, I'm talking about 168.
I'm just kidding.
Because at 168, Triple G didn't beat him. Triple G, yeah.
He was also 40.
Yeah, exactly. We talk about age, right?
So when I say age is a problem, I just say it's because he's had 60 some odd fights in boxing, right?
Yeah, it's a lot of. And the other thing too, check this out. This is what I'm talking about, right? Like, not only did Bivol put it on him, but look at this, bro. Look at how much bigger Bivol is than Canelo. This looks like a middleweight compared to a light heavyweight.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's
what I'm saying.
The difference when they were in the ring, like right when the bell rang for the first round, I was like, dude, this is like a mismatch, like just size wise, it was just overwhelming. Because look, sure. that last photo, that was a big difference. The one where they're raising their hands looks like a giant and a 5'5" guy.
Yeah, exactly. They look like
look at that.
Two guys that shouldn't be in there together. So Canelo or I can't tell. You right. Yeah. And then what's his drive now? You know what I mean? So also man's got money now. He ain't got the same discipline as the come up. That's what I'm saying. Like, unless it's something to strive for, which even then it almost kind of disproves it with the Bivol fight where, Bivol, at least it was for another title, but I guess he had already done that before. He had already won a title at 175. So if he's going to
Yeah, beat
win,
Kozakov or whatever his name is. Kozakov.
Kovalev.
Kovalev. So
Oh, well, there you go.
I bring all this up is because I feel like the Canelo that can beat guys like Benavidez and can beat guys like even Bivol. It's going to be tough, but that can beat a guy like Bivol is still there. But it has to be it has to happen with the preparation. He's got to go all in. And with these matchups, I just don't think he's going all in the training and the preparation. I think he's like, okay, well, I'm getting paid a ton of money. I'm going to beat these guys just based off of the experience, based off of, the style, the power, etc. I don't have to put in that what's the incentive to go that extra mile in the training is pretty much where I'm at with that. And like I said, man, I thought Berlanga, even in that fight, if Berlanga was a better fighter, he could have won that fight, especially with the way that Canelo was obviously faded towards the end and Berlanga got a second wind and a boost of energy. He could have went in there and really put it on him, but he didn't put it on him like somebody like Bivol did. That being said, the version that I saw on Saturday night of Canelo, that slowed down, I don't even know if that guy beats Caleb Plant.
No,
I don't know that guy beats, because that wasn't the same Canelo that fought Caleb Plant.
No.
And Caleb Plant had a ton of success in that fight.
Yeah, in the first 6 rounds.
And this version of Caleb Plant's a lot more aggressive too.
That's what I'm saying. So if you put the Canelo from Saturday against the Caleb Plant from Saturday, just them two, the same versions,
it's a tough
in,
fight.
in the same way, I don't know that Canelo wins that fight, man. But obviously Caleb Plant at the beginning of the fight, whatever. But yeah.
I think we're underestimating how Canelo can read opponents. I think all of us are kind of like not realizing that Canelo can probably read and understand what's happening in the ring better than all three of us combined. And I think he just gets what he needs to do, whether it's the style we're talking about. And yes, I agree with you. He's starting to be a one-way fighter and he's giving opportunities to people. But I think he also just reads what's happening in there. Now,
he's like a one-trick pony now.
It may be that way. I think also the reason why we haven't seen the David Benavidez fight is he's not ready to give up as being the best Mexican fighter out there and the face of that side. He's not ready to give that up yet. So he's not wanting necessarily to fight him. He would rather fight, Bivol at the top of a 175. He would rather pick and choose around the corners of other things, because if he does know that if he's understanding that he's slowing down a little bit and he's becoming, I guess, I don't want to call it a one-trick pony, but a guy who's going to have pressure early and power shots early, and then he kind of just starts to fade and he keeps you at bay, as he fades, he may realize, oh, well, this is the one guy that puts punches together the whole entire fight, right? Whereas Bivol is just the bigger guy. And obviously it's more of like, hey, if I lose to this dude, he's a real 175er. He's a real, world champion. He has a chance of staying up at the top for a long time now. It's not a big, like I started my career at 154 or whatever it was. Now I'm up at 175. It's like, it's a whole nother category. So I think he just realizes those things. And he just doesn't want to give up that I'm the best Mexican fighter right now and I'm the face of boxing. He doesn't want to give that up until he has to, until it's the end, or until he sets up David the right way, like we've talked about a couple of times. Let him fight one more time, let the big boy come down again. It's a different story. There's a reason why Bivol's not coming down to 168 to fight Canelo. Like, what does that make sense?
I've heard that Bivol was throwing that idea around there, and I've heard him talk about that as well. But I guess Canelo's not interested in that for whatever reason. The one thing I will say though is I don't feel like I'm necessarily underestimating his ability to read opponents. I think that kind of plays into my point, is that Canelo's ability to read his opponents is what's getting him across the finish line. So he doesn't even need to really prepare as hard as he should, because he's able to just go, okay, my experience is going to take me to the end. I know that I'm better than these guys, especially a guy like Berlanga. I know I'm better than Munguia. I know I'm better than Ryder. I know I'm better than, a 40-year-old Triple G. I fought the guy, 24 rounds. I know I'm better than a 154-pound Charlo, which I feel like even in that fight he was a little more dialed in. But yeah, man, it's if he's going to take a fight against David Benavidez or the winner of Bivol versus Beterbiev, then he's going to have to. It's essentially going to have to be like the last hurrah. You know, I'm going all in. You know,
Yeah.
my legacy's on the line, type of thing, and I'm going all the way forward. Now, my question to you guys is, what, which fight makes more sense? Which fight would you rather? Fight would you rather see? And then also, which fight, if you were Canelo, would you take? You know what I mean? Which fight makes the most sense for legacy, or which fight means the most to you, Johan?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I mean, I would like to watch both fights. I mean, both fights make sense in terms of like logistics. Like it makes
For
sense.
sure.
Like Benavidez was the mandatory for like 3 years at 168, so that makes sense. That's the fight that everybody was calling for ever since Canelo was undisputed. And then Bivol, I mean, the rematch, everybody wants to see that. I mean, I think in terms of for Canelo, it's probably going to be more towards Dimitri Bivol, just because I think that's the fight that's going to motivate him to do that extra drive. For someone who has everything in the world of boxing, that getting that get back for that loss is what's going to get him motivated and train, you know, kind of like how he was. Maybe I wouldn't say like how he was at middleweight, but to put a little extra drive into him because there's nothing motivating him for David Benavidez. That's just something the fans are wanting. You know, that's what we want, but it's not really something he's asking for. He's like, what he's been saying, what has he done? You know, he's saying all these things. It's just something that's not motivating him because he feels like David Benavidez is not putting anything to the table. Dimitri Bivol has a win on him. And I
Yeah.
think that crushed a lot of his confidence because, you know, after being undisputed, man was on top of the world. Man was trying to fight cruiserweights, trying to get a match with Alexander Usyk. The man was on cloud nine, and I think because of that loss, I think this is why we're seeing the ripple effects of these, you know, these kind of not cookie cutter, but these template like performances where he's just copying, pasting a game plan, using his intangibles to win these fights. But I think also with a rematch against Dimitri Bivol, you'll get the best version of Canelo just because he understands too. He needs to do a lot more than what he's doing in these fights. I also want to go back to my point. I don't know how he will adjust because, you know, doing something the same exact way for 2 years, you know, how easily will you adjust to, you know, fighting a different way or kind of adjusting your game plan to be not so selective and not loading up on shots, but
Bring back the middleweight style.
bring back the middleweight style, kind of be like that, kind of be a lot more defensive, a lot more elusive, you know, changing levels a lot better, you know, throwing a lot more volume. I think a rematch would bring that out of him because that's the only thing I think when, you know, him being at the top of boxing, him having it all, he's already made the most money. He's already become undisputed, the only Mexican or the only undisputed champion at super middleweight. He's made all the history that he's needed. The only thing that's driving him now is his pride.
Yeah,
Okay.
most definitely. And real quick before I go to you, John, I think like I agree with that. You know, a month from today, we could be talking about Dimitri Bivol as the undisputed light heavyweight champion. And just that, not only does he have a win over Canelo, but then to win undisputed at light heavyweight would be, I mean, that's the icing on the cake. I mean, at that point, you'd have to call him the greatest Mexican fighter to ever live. At that point, I don't really think there's even a debate at that point for him, bro. For him to, I mean, I think there's already, you know, people could sit here and debate it now, right? But Umang's got a good point. Trying to see that head movement like he had with Danny Jacobs, right? Stuff like that is what we're trying to see. But it's the win over him and the possible undisputed being a two-weight undisputed world champion. He could have been undisputed world champion at middleweight if it wasn't for the IBF. IBF back at it again. They stripped his title, and then instead of fighting the WBO champion at middleweight, he ended up fighting the WBO champion 2 weights higher. I feel like that's even better than undisputed, but that's a whole nother side rabbit hole. For David Benavidez, the only thing that is really even motivating is John's point earlier, is that he can claim to be the best Mexican champion or the best Mexican fighter out there right now, which at the moment he's holding that title until David takes it from him. And if you don't give him the opportunity, then he can't take it. You know what I mean, John?
So Julio Cesar Chavez is the best Mexican fighter ever. Let's all just understand that. And still that way because he went 79-0 after he lost his first fight. That's just retarded. And he fought 8 times a year. Let's just throw everything else out the window and just
he was 84-0.
Yeah, so that's retarded. Okay, so we're just gonna give that man his shit and move on. Canelo's the best Mexican fighter in the past however many years since that guy.
If Canelo just went on and kept fighting, 5 times a year against any bum from a skate bar in Tijuana, then he could have did the same exact thing.
Are you really? The man, he's 79 and he fought anybody in front. We're not getting into this. I'm going away. I'm going to go back to the point. So now the other opponent we're forgetting about, and I feel like we're writing him off, is Beterbiev. If he beats Bivol, we don't get the Bivol fight.
Yeah.
And he can beat him. I don't care what anybody says. The man's got enough power to knock anybody out. He can beat him. Right? And the styles make matchups, and I know Bivol's in and out movement and things like that, and his IQ is amazing. But no one's put this man down, and Beterbiev has finished every single guy he's had in front of him. So the power is there. If Beterbiev beats Bivol, he's not fighting Beterbiev. I don't see it. I just don't see you walking into that monster, especially if Bivol loses by knockout. You're not walking into that monster. You're not doing it. You're going to go turn around and fight David Benavidez or anybody else down there that they put in front of you, right? Maybe you then ask Bivol to come down to 168 and fight him there. That's about the only thing you could have because at 175, it means nothing anymore.
Yeah.
Right? There's no title in play. There's nothing like that. So I think we can see a couple different outcomes. It could be Benavidez is the alternate because of, Beterbiev wins. But then also, let's see this. Bivol loses. Beterbiev wins. He doesn't want to fight David Benavidez, to your point, because he doesn't want to give up that chance of being the next Mexican fighter. So he fights David Morrell. Picks that.
Yeah, I don't even think Morrell's on the radar.
But I'm just saying, but I could see that turn because he picks the guys that he wants.
Yeah.
Like, Berlanga on International or Mexican Independence Day, who wanted to see him versus Berlanga? I don't think any of us did. Like,
no.
we were kind of talking noise about it, like, oh, he's going to get finished. I know I picked him to get finished in like at least 8. You know what I mean? And he proved me wrong that way. So I think it's one of those things more off that it all depends on who's going to win this Bivol and Beterbiev fight. He's 107. Why we bring this up, bro? Why? It's 100. We're going to deep dive into Julio Cesar Chavez's.
Oh, look at this. All right. So now he's the champion. He's a champion. Look, he's a champion, and then he sprinkles in fights like this. 0-1. Bruh, how's that even get sanctioned? It's because it's in El Toro Tijuana, right? All right. So now we're fighting for the title again. 5-3. 4-3-1. You know what I mean? So, bro, like, I get it. You know what I mean? I definitely get it. But then when we're talking about what's it called? Like, oh, if we're using the record as in like the amount of fights as that's what we're using to propel the argument, then
you see what hat he's wearing, right? You see what hat he's wearing. That's why he's hating on Chavez. You see what hat he's wearing.
I'm not hating on Chavez. I'm just saying, like, everybody, and I feel like it's a nostalgia thing too. Like, I mean, I could go back to it, bro. There's a guy, 7-2 in here. You know what I mean, bro? 7-2.
Do you think he was picking anybody, or do you think
10-10? You know what I mean? Like, and then these other fighters, we got good records in here, but bro, 14-8.
He fought Hector Camacho, 40-1 right there. Hector Camacho was 40-1.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, he's got good fights and whatnot. And Pernell Whitaker, he had a draw too. You know what I mean? Definitely good fights. Meldrick Taylor, the first fight that was debatable, the stoppage and whatnot, and then he quit against De La Hoya. You know what I mean? Like, I get it, right? But the 107 is just because he was just fighting anybody. And when you say anybody, you could use it as a positive or a negative.
I mean, yeah, I get your point. I got
And
you.
don't let this distract you from the fact that the Seahawks should have ran the ball.
That's a good point. Why the
you're
fuck
right.
would you let Russell Wilson throw the football on this first yard? I don't like. Let's not even get into that. I can't even. I'll get so mad right now.
So, anyways, that's the thing. I'm not trying to hate on Chavez, but when we look at accolades, if Canelo wins undisputed at light heavyweight, bro, you know, there's still going to be a bunch of people. Oh, well, he's not better than Chavez. Blah blah blah. My man, you know, if Canelo goes beats Bivol, especially, it's not even like Bivol just beat if Bivol wins and then Canelo's able to beat him, right? Let's live in this fantasy land for a second. It's not like he's just beating a guy who went and became undisputed because he just beat like a couple guys and the belts were vacant. Bro, after coming off of a win against Beterbiev, that's like the number one undisputed guy almost in the history of undisputed, besides maybe Usyk at heavyweight.
If he can,
you know what I'm saying?
Can capture the undisputed at that level and either beat Beterbiev or get his win back from Bivol, I do see your point. I understand that would be what, 5 categories of undisputed now, or would it be 4?
No, I mean it would be 2 undisputed, and then
one is this. No one's ever done it at super middleweight with the all.
He's only been undisputed at super middleweight. At middleweight, he was a 3-weight world champion, and then in the next fight after he fought for the IBF, the only belt he was missing was the WBO. And then instead of fighting for the 160 WBO, he went and knocked out the light heavyweight WBO. That right there, I almost feel like nobody talks about, but there should be almost an asterisk there where it's like you're like super undisputed. At that point, because nobody's telling me that you're going to put Andrade against Kovalev and Andrade's going to win the fight at light heavyweight.
True.
I
think Andrade just wasn't like, I don't think for some reason no one wanted to fight that man. I think it was like they just didn't like the fights. Like it wasn't a fight that anybody got excited about.
I wholeheartedly believe that Canelo would have fought him had the IBF not put him in that position and then stripped his title from him immediately after winning, and then tell them, okay, well, you have to fight Derevianchenko, who just came off of a loss of the guy you just beat.
Yeah,
it made no sense. And then they said, oh, well, you have to do it by August, and it's like, bro, I don't even fight in August. You know what I mean? I remember all of that, the news articles, everything. I got it all in here. But that being said, I don't even remember my point. Actually, I have another question. I have another question on this whole topic, right? When we're talking about light heavyweight, super middle, if Canelo goes and fights Bivol or Beterbiev, whoever next at 175 for undisputed, does he ever fight David Benavidez?
He retires after that.
And if he wins, does he need to?
No, he doesn't.
Yeah.
Even if people are calling for it, he doesn't, because
that's better.
It's better because you got your win back. You got your win back, and not only that, you got your win back against a guy who is the top guy at light heavyweight and arguably would be at pound for pound. So you would like, let's say you called it a career after that win, you would end your career pound for pound king. Like, why would you want to? What other motivation would you have?
I think if he wins that fight, if he were to somehow, wake up like he's Rocky, and you know what I mean, and train like that, and then somehow manage to win the fight and become undisputed at 175, I feel like he should go back and take another fight or two like he's doing now, just to piss off David Benavidez.
That would be petty. That would be petty as hell.
It just basically be like, I'm never fighting you. I don't need to fight you. And I got all the titles that you could even try and fight for.
That would be funny. That would be so hilarious. He'd be like,
that would be hilarious.
Because he's ranked in both divisions. So if he's able to, if
he's got nowhere to go,
bro. If Canelo's defending in both divisions against other opponents, like just doing the wraparound, I would retire if I was David Benavidez. I'd go up to cruiserweight. I'd be like, dude, there's no.
He would pretty much have to. But now there's a path, right? There's one path option available, and it goes through a man that nobody knew a while ago, but our favorite organization, the IBF, put him on the map. His name is William Skull. Now everyone's all of a sudden, Plant's talking about, oh, I could go fight for the IBF. Berlanga's talking about, oh, I could go fight for the IBF and possibly get a rematch with Canelo, because then that would make Canelo undisputed again. My question is, with the history of the IBF with Canelo, because remember, when he went undisputed, not only was it a dispute with PBC to even get that fight with Plant, because it was supposed to be September, they had to push it back to November because of disputes, but also I feel like maybe he saved the IBF for last because of the previous issue he had with the IBF. Does Canelo at this point even care about the IBF title?
I don't know, because the IBF is so strict. They're like so strict, and they're very like B-side.
And they have the worst rankings.
Yeah.
They're the worst rankings, and they're so strict with it.
They're most obscure, and they're like very B-side oriented. So like, if you don't like agree to their mandatory like within like a couple days, your thing's like, it's like your title's almost like worthless, pretty much. So like, I don't know, but shout out William Skull, man. I mean, now he's fighting for a title in Germany. Like, I don't know.
Who's he fighting?
Some Vladimir Shitskin, some Russian guy.
Vladimir Shitskin?
Yeah, Vladimir Shitskin in Germany. It was supposed to be in Florida, but I don't know what happened.
That would have been sweet if it was in Florida. Well, speaking of Florida, we do have an IBF title fight going down in Orlando next month with my boy Tim Tszyu fighting for that IBF title. So shout out to him. But now I have one more question. I know I've been full of questions for you guys on this for this super middleweight topic. Last question is, with Canelo, would it make sense for Canelo to fight David Benavidez at 168, like have him, like me and John have been talking about, dropping him down to 168? Would you or would you not be upset at him having a rehydration clause as well on top of it? And if so, would it not be hypocritical for him to say, okay, I'll fight Bivol at 175, but for David Benavidez, he has to come down to 168? John?
I don't think his pride will allow him to worry about a hydration clause. I think he has more pride than himself will do that, but I don't think his pride will get in the way in asking David Benavidez, get your ass back down to 168 to fight. And then I think because he already lost to Bivol at 175, I don't feel like it's too much to ask, right? Because at one point David was chasing him at 168. Then he moved voluntarily up to 175 because he didn't get the fight. But Bivol's always been at 175, and that's where Canelo lost. I think, like Johan said, he has that chip on his shoulder about the loss, and that might get the best Canelo out of him, that we can see out of it, because he has that loss and he wants to come back from it. But to fight that man at 175, that man is the 175 guy besides Beterbiev, right? So that's not hypocritical. I think it's more, nah, man, I'm going to come up and beat you at your own weight because I lost to you at your weight. I don't need to reverse this, bring you down to 168 and beat you there. I want to beat you where I lost it. You know what I mean?
And then I think that was essentially the whole point of Canelo. Like when you're saying like, oh, was Bivol going to go to 168 and Canelo would shut that down? I think that's pretty much Canelo's point. Yeah,
and I think but David Benavidez has been chasing him for how many times at the 168? So he's like, well, if you've been chasing me at 168, don't complain when I say meet me at 168. You've been chasing me there forever. Like you've already put those words out there, and you've already fought in that category. So if you've moved yourself up and fought twice at 175 and you put that extra weight on and you don't want to, and you can't make it or it drains you more, that's your own fault. You've chased me at 168. I never chased you. We never even thought about 175. It's always been 168. Yeah. So I don't think it's hypocritical. I think it's just what it is. And that's just what it comes down to.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, it's just, that whole fight, the whole point of the fight was being at super middleweight. I mean, because him being the mandatory at super middleweight is what like kind of wrote the fight, kind of wrote the narrative of it. The fight being at 175 wouldn't even make sense, especially like now. I don't know. I just think that like it's not hypocritical just because Canelo's going to 175 for Bivol because he has to. Like the ball's not in his court with that. The ball everywhere else, he makes the decisions. So like in terms of business, David Benavidez has no pull on what weight, what rehydration clauses are happening, and I don't think Canelo would even do that because dude, Berlanga came in 20 pounds heavier than him on Saturday, so I don't think he'd do that. Granted, Berlanga, different category than David Benavidez, but listen, I don't think he would be worried about that. He's the A side in pretty much every situation. So yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing is with Bivol or Better Biev, they have something to offer at 175 where Canelo really has no business at 175. He's not a light heavyweight. He's not it's not like, oh, I'm growing and I can't make weight at 168. No. I mean, realistically, he could still probably make 160
160.
fine. You know, I mean, he weighed in at 166 for this fight, and he didn't look drained or nothing. He looked like he just walked on the scale. And when you weigh in basically 2 pounds under, you know, that kind of leads in that direction. Nobody's really overcutting. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I'm kind of with you guys on that. Those guys have something at 175. David really has nothing to offer. Like John said, David's the guy that's been chasing him at 168. If I'm Canelo, and since you like Johan said, David has no pool. He's pretty much like what Conor McGregor said. You know, you'll do what you're told.
Yeah.
And I'm sure David with the opportunity would say, okay, I'll do it. Canelo's whole issue is that he's been saying, you know, hey, this guy rehydrates up to, you know, almost 200 pounds when he fights. He's basically a heavyweight when he fights in there. So I wouldn't even be surprised if a rehydration clause is at least discussed, or if we hear something about a rehydration clause. Because if he's able to go, okay, David, I'll fight you. I get paid, you know, over 100 million, you know, 120 million, something crazy. Then on top of that, you're meeting me at 168. You can't weigh in over. And there's a rehydration clause of you can't weigh more than, you know, 180, something like that. I wouldn't be surprised at that. Now, I don't know that I would necessarily even be mad at that, right? Because it's part of the business of boxing. Some people that listen to this program might think, oh, well, you know, you harp on Gervonta about it all the time, right? The issue is that Gervonta does it in basically every single fight. You know what I mean? This would be a first for Canelo. So if you do it one time and you have a reason to, okay, sure. You know, like if Gervonta were to fight Haney and then go, well, the issue is with Haney, you know, he rehydrates past where he's even supposed to. So that would be an issue there. But with this, if it being a one-time thing, I don't even know that I would be too mad at that. You know, would you guys be upset if there was a rehydration discussion on there?
I mean, as long as it's fair, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think 12 pounds is fair because I think Canelo is going to be around 185. If you want him to be no more than what you weigh when you come into the ring, I think that's fair.
I don't think Canelo rehydrates to 185.
From 168, he's got to get up to 185, man. He's a big boy.
Like, yeah, but I don't know that. I don't know that he's rehydrating that much.
You don't think so? I would like to find out. I don't know that. Do we know? Do they give away?
Yeah. I feel like it just has to be a reasonable weight. Like nothing crazy. Like I know that like what was it? Was Brian Garcia with Gervonta? He had to weigh in like what? What did he have to weigh in?
146.
See, like that's crazy. That's crazy after like to maintain that weight after weighing in.
Yeah.
It just has to be something moderate. Like obviously meet in the middle. You can't rehydrate to 200 pounds. Maybe 185 is like that cutoff point. Just because, I mean, that is pretty much weight bullying at that point. Rehydrating that big, but I don't know. We got to see. But I got to see how much Canelo weighs on fight day. I know that Berlanga though outweighed him by a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure. Berlanga outweighed him by a lot. I'm not really finding anything on here besides people speculating, you know, which is essentially what we're doing. So it's pretty much the same thing. But yeah, man. I think there's a lot of options right now for Canelo. And another one we're not even talking about is the Crawford fight, right? That could be another fight where he goes,
Not
dude,
happening.
he could go, bro. I mean, we saw Turkey with him at the UFC with Crawford.
Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, he shot that down at
Kendrick
he
Lamar.
shot that question down at the post-fight press conference. He didn't even answer it. He said no comment. He didn't want anything to do with it. They asked
Canelo
about
did.
the call out. He didn't want anything to do with it. He was like, no comment. And told him to direct that shit somewhere else. He don't want nothing to do with that.
The fight would probably never happen. Yeah. I mean, I was saying before that I don't like the fight because I like both of those guys. I think they have their own lanes, but people are talking about it. So for Canelo, if Canelo wants a easier fight that's still big, just because of the weight discrepancy, I think that option is Crawford. The other two options you got, Benavidez and Bivol, possibly if Bivol wins, those are two hard fights. Yeah. So it's tough, man. It's definitely tough. But
don't forget William Skull.
William Skull is actually an option.
Yeah, it is.
To be fair,
I'm undisputed.
To be fair, but I think the last point I'll make, because we've been talking a lot about Canelo, is Berlanga. You guys touched up on it. I think Berlanga earned the respect of a lot of people. I think even with this loss, he can come back and be able to, before I was saying, and I was very heavy on, the island isn't behind him. I think the island is probably more behind him now, even with the loss, than they were, just because of his willingness to actually fight compared to some of the other guys. He just didn't have the skills to be able to do it. But I think he's going to be able to take a lot from this fight and be able to go in and have competitive fights with, a matchup like somebody like Macumbi. Sign me up for that.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I'm down with that. Those two would. I think you would think that's a tune-up fight, and he would take that, and that would be a very fun fight.
That'd be a good fight.
I don't know that is a tune-up fight.
No, I don't think so either. I agree with you. I don't think it's a tune-up fight. I think
not after Saturday. That's not a tune-up.
Yeah, I think he would think it was, but it's not. It's definitely that dude's got power, and he's more athletic than you think. And if you stand at the wrong range with him, you've clearly seen he can do some shit. So.
Well, do you see him going straight into another big fight like Caleb Plant, or do you?
He doesn't want Caleb Plant. He even said in the post-fight, he was talking about how he's above all these guys. His next fight should be for a title or for something like that because of his stock rising. He literally said they talked about, well, maybe Plant. Everything's like, no. He's like, I'm above him. I'm above him now.
William Skull, you just became the biggest name in boxing. You're the biggest target now. I'm telling you that right now.
I know, dude. He really is.
World titles. You're the biggest name now.
For real. And I think that's what they're going to go after. I think Eddie Hearn wants him to get a title, and then he'll pitch him from there because what we talked about was was the payout for Berlanga and his crew, right? And I think
Berlanga is not even on the radar, bro.
Bro, if
it's William Skull versus Vladimir Shitskin. And then Billy's an option, bro. I heard people talking about Billy for Canelo possibly next. Diego Pacheco is still too young. He's still too green. But the thing is, bro, with Eddie Hearn and the way they operate, just like they did with the WBA, they could insert Berlanga right in there with the right amount of money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they already talked about Berlanga turned down Pacheco too. Eddie Hearn was asked about that. He's like, he's a young guy. I don't think he's near the level. Right now he needs more time. They shot down everything. I'm telling you, Johan, he's coming for William Skull. That's what they're going to try to find. They're going to try to
know. He's coming for William Skull.
Yeah, he's coming. They're coming for that because if they can get that.
Skull or Shitskin.
But yeah, depending on who wins that fight, you know what I mean? Because Skull, his last win was against a guy from Philly who had a competitive fight with a friend of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that my friend took it on like, a week's notice or something like that. So, styles make fights and everything, but when you're on certain levels, I don't know necessarily. I mean, I haven't really seen William Skull like that, so I don't know if he's on that world champion level. And I don't even, I just found out who Shitskin is. So,
oh my goodness, I think though you're just gonna.
He didn't like your opinions.
I guess he didn't, bro. But before we close it out, bro, any other last thoughts that we. Oh, hold on a second. Hold on.
He's back.
You gonna finish your thought?
No.
And Johan, one thing I tell you, when I was on the show for the last 28 seconds of the post fight, I got caught by the Las Vegas sheriffs while I was jaywalking, trying to get across the street to go see my homie that was at another hotel. They let me go. Nothing was wrong. They just warned me, like, hey man, don't do that. There's a lot of people that drive drunk, stuff like that. They were nice. It wasn't anything like bad, but I was like, damn.
I was like at the post fight show. I was like, yeah, he got arrested.
No, not at all. Not at all. They let me go. I was walking down a sketchy ass road within like 3 minutes. It wasn't a big deal at all. It was quite funny. But to close out my side of it is boxing is definitely heading in a better direction than it's been in a while. And I loved how this last card at least stacked some people on it. Stephen Fulton, Danny Garcia, Erzlandi Lara, Caleb Plant, Canelo, Berlanga. Names that we all recognize, names that we all, I mean, even the undercard with Salas and Roman Avila, that was great. Salas knocked him out. I mean, that was those fights, just those type of things. We need more of it. We just need more of it. And if it keeps happening, we're going to be much happier fans and, podcasters essentially, with it, because we have shit to talk about and it's good shit. It's not us just wishing on a, once upon a time on a star or some shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We're not, praying to the boxing gods so much anymore.
Yeah.
It's raining over here.
Yeah.
Johan, any closing thoughts that we didn't get to or that you want to reiterate?
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with John because like you and I were talking about it last week that, even with this, going head to head with the UFC, we were a lot more high on this boxing card just because like of the name value that was there and stuff like that. And even if like, you can debate which card was better, the fact that boxing was is now putting on these cards is so good for the sport. For the longest time they've been just top heavy with like the last two fights just being the ones that you're watching, and now you're making fans tune in to the very first fight, which is always good. The Danny Garcia, all I'll say is I don't know shit about boxing at this point because most of my predictions were wrong. Like they were dead wrong. I thought fucking Rolly was gonna lose. That fight turned out to be made Rolly look like a fucking world beater. I was so excited about Danny Garcia and Erzlandi Lara. That turned out to be a shitter. I thought Romain Villa was going to knock him out. He got knocked out. I thought Cool Boy Stiff was going to be Cool Boy Steph. He ended up being Steven. I just I don't know. I guess my closing thought is it was a great night of fights, but I don't know jack shit about boxing.
Well, 90% of the world doesn't, right? That's what we always say. 90% of the world doesn't know shit about boxing. Who knows where we land in the category? Maybe we know it, maybe we don't. You know what I'm saying?
I'd like to lean on the I don't know shit about boxing side. You know what I mean? So that way, if I am right about something, I'll go, oh, well, I guess it was a lucky guess. And then my man Umang said, for real, same. Exactly, man. Well, shout out Umang. You get Umang. That's what I said, bro. Earlier I said it. Umang Rama.
Rama. Just call him Rama. Just use the last name. Rama. It's way easier.
I know Umang. Me and Umang go way back. You know what I mean? He knows what's up. But Umang, you get the supporter of the show award to you. You know what I mean? So there we go. But yeah, man, I think we got some good stuff kicking off in the in the boxing sphere. Good fights over the weekend. Solid. That's what I like to see. You know what I mean? So it's going to make for some exciting conversations coming up, especially with Canelo in the mix. And we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. We got a big fight with my boy Dimitri Bivol and Artur Beterbiev. So,
hey, maybe we try to figure out how to do a watch along with that, guys.
When is that one?
It's in October, right?
Yes. I just don't know.
The end of October?
Bivol versus Beterbiev battle for light heavyweight supremacy. That is October 12th in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia.
Everybody check your
So
calendar, see what you're doing. Maybe we can do a watch along with it.
that's a strong possibility, my friend.
Yeah, let's figure that
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, we could hit up the Johan, where do you live?
Tallahassee.
Oh, you live in Tallahassee, bro?
Yeah.
You got
That's
you.
right,
You
bro. You're
probably
out
drive
there with
fast, right? You got a lead foot. Do you go fast in your car on the highway?
No comment.
No comment.
what
Okay,
part
so
what part of town do you live?
Usually like 3 hours then.
I live on the sub. I'm a suburban dude. I live in the suburbs, so not near college town.
Oh, okay, gotcha. You're on the
He
north
big
side?
time. He
Yeah,
big time.
pretty much.
I figure you're on the north side. You're not on the south side?
No,
South of the train tracks?
No. We don't do that. We don't do that.
He don't look like a south side guy. He look like a north side guy.
Nah. You're not a rattler. Yeah, there you go. But all right, guys. Good show tonight. Thanks for everybody tuning in. And next time, make sure you comment below to be featured live on the screen. Maybe one of these days we might send out the link and have some people hop in for like a minute or so. You know what I mean? My boy Umang might have to get you on here to, give your thoughts. Spitfire, rapid fire, and then we got some other good supporters out there as well. So that might be something. But
Okay.
all right, guys. Until next time.